Have you ever seen this album cover? Where did this come from? Why is it embroidery? Who made it? Did Elton John make it? Why does it exist? Hello and welcome back to another video. This is a bit of a different video from me today because we're going to be talking about a little snippet of textile history, which is not something I often do, but this is something that personally I was very interested in, so I went and researched it and thought it was interesting after that. So I thought you may also be interested. Have you ever seen this album cover? It is by Elton John and it is called Madman Across The Water, but you know that because you can read. It's always interested me when I've seen this because it's clearly embroidery of some description, but I was like, where did this come from? Why is it embroidery? Who made it? Did Elton John make it? Why does it exist, basically? So I did a little digging and I found out, and I thought I would share it with you because it's quite cool. So if you don't know me, I'm Rachel. I'm a textile artist. I primarily do freehand machine embroidery, but I also dabble in various other things, and I like to teach people textiles craft as well. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I would love that because YouTube is going to be a big thing for me next year, and I really want to make it work. So yes, anyway, without further ado, let's dive into this album. So this is Elton John's fourth studio album and it was released in 1971, and as you can see it's quite unique in the artwork, and it's got a similar back cover as well, slightly different, but we'll get into that in a sec. And you know the song Tiny Dancer, which is in fact a track on this album, there's a lyric in it that is blah blah blah, seamstress for the band, seamstress for the band. That turns out that is inspired by a real person, and it is the person who stitched this. So both the front and the back are hand embroidery with what looks to me like a little bit of machine embroidery in those like shading areas in the back, but it just to me has the look of machine in its like erratic sort of zigzag. And it's actually done on an old Levi's denim jacket. So who stitched it? It was actually stitched by a woman called Janice Larkham, who is the wife of the album art director David Larkham, which makes sense, right? So he thought, you know what would be cool if we could do this? And then he looked at his wife and said, you could probably do this. But yeah, so it's got this like bold typography design, presumably put together by David, and then he sort of gave her the design and said, I don't know, go wild. Obviously we don't know the ins and outs of who actually came up with it, but we're going to presume that he came up with it and then gave to his wife and she made it come to life. Interestingly, she didn't want credit under her own name for this piece, and actually it is credited as being by the artist Yanis, Y-A-N-I-S, which is random. I mean, similar to Janice, because she spells Janice I-S at the end, not I-C-E, like you might see. So yeah, it's quite a complex design because it's got multiple shades of the blue and then the zigzags in the background, and it's quite dense stitching, so it can't have been a quick turnaround, which is interesting because they did actually, I found out they only had a 2-week deadline to get this going, which presumably is why he turned to his wife and was like, right, I need this ASAP, so I'm just going to ask you. Because women can just churn out embroidery, apparently. Well, obviously she could, but the back cover was not done by Janice. It was actually done by Jill Brown, who is the wife of Steve Brown, and Steve was the coordinator and mentor of Elton and Bernie Taupin at the time. So there's just like this little wives craft club going on behind the scenes at Elton's production team. So the back cover's a little more simple, but it's still got a lot going on. And it's just the track list basically, but we've got a 1 and a 2 with like a little floral design, and then she's done the track listing in like a variegated thread and what looks to me like some kind of chain stitch. So yeah, it's still quite a complicated design. So because of this 2-week deadline, the two women split it between them. Janice did the front cover, Jill did the back cover, and we get this gorgeous album cover. So you would think such a tactile album cover would have been given a special edition, maybe something like a bit embossed for texture, anything like that. It has actually never released any special editions. Even for its 50th anniversary, it just was a coloured vinyl. I think that is a missed opportunity, but obviously the production team not that bothered about the fact that it's so unique. I mean, I've not really seen this in any other album covers, so I think they've missed a trick here. But what's new, textile being overlooked again. Didn't see that coming. So upon completion, apparently Janice made it into a cushion which was gifted to Elton, and that's the front cover. But apparently the back cover, stitched by Jill, actually still is in possession of Jill's family today, which is quite nice. I hope they appreciate it. So as we know, this was the inspiration for the lyric Seamstress for the band, and that is a fact that Bernie Taupin himself has confirmed on Instagram, which I think is super cool. And it does also leave me to wonder if the two of them or one of them was responsible for any more stitching or anything like that during their time with the band. It makes sense, doesn't it? Because I don't feel like they would have randomly asked her for an album cover one time and just been like, okay, great, that's that then. She must have had like a bit of a reputation for doing that kind of thing. And as I said at the start of the video, that lyric is in the song Tiny Dancer, which is on this album. So do we think that Bernie wrote the lyric after the album artwork was done? I doubt it, because they'll have done the album artwork last, surely. So yeah, presumably she was already known as Seamstress for the band, and then this just cemented it, which is maybe why they actually did want her to do it for this album, because they know the lyric was already in there. So they thought, what if we bring that in again for post-production? But when I looked it up online, this is the only artwork that she is credited for, so presumably she didn't then start a career doing anything like this commercially, which is a shame because it's lovely. But yeah, it just suggests that she just did it for the band while she was hanging out with them. Now, to finish off, I hope you found it interesting. I did actually try and find a photograph of Janice or Jill, and I couldn't find one. There's some photos with women in that could be either of those two, but it's not clear. They're not clearly stated if it's one of them or just some random other woman. So I think that's a shame, because they've together brought us one of the most, I think, iconic album covers ever. Naturally, their husbands are both well credited for their work on this album and many others, of course. Now, let me know if you enjoyed this video. As I said at the start, it is a bit different for me, so I'd love to know if you'd like anything else like it. Drop me a comment, and like I said, if you haven't already subscribed, please do, because I would love to see more of you in 2024. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.